Okay, let's have a look at some animal sketching. Animals are probably the most annoying things to draw, paint, sculpt, because they don't like to sit still on command. Basically, they've got to be sleeping or dead or domesticated, and then they still don't really cooperate. So that's why I've got a dead rabbit here, and it's a vegan dead rabbit, I think, because it's from a photo of a dead rabbit, so I'm going to call that a vegan dead rabbit. Technically it's not dead, it was pixels. But yeah, you can't even get a dead rabbit very easily anymore, because the Rabbitos, I think they were called, don't really come around with their rabbit cart selling rabbits. So I had to get these from photos of rabbits. I don't like using photos, but with animals, I don't know what else you can do if you can't get hold of the animal. I'm a bit weird though, because I don't like having advantages that people from the past didn't have, just as a principle. So I tend to like to use things that they could have also used in theory. For example, dead animals or sleeping animals in the zoo or something like that. But of course I use photos of that to be more efficient. This is a bit of a weird quirk I have, but it's not completely pure. I've used photos over the years that aren't of dead things. It's just one of the problems with animals. I mean, with people, you can have access to all kinds of. Well, actually, when you get older and you don't see as many people, not necessarily, but it depends on your circumstances. If you have a decent sized family, you have access to a lot of potential cooperative models that will sit there and let you draw them. But rabbits or any animals, the prey animal is going to run away and the predator is going to kill you, or try to, so it's just difficult. There's our vegan. I've got more vegan rabbit. The carcasses are quite good to draw from, because fur is a bit of a problem covering up the joints, so you can get a better grip of the joints when they're skinned. Unfortunately, the only way to skin an animal, I think, is to have it deceased, although I'm not sure they follow that rule in China. In any case, this is a vegan rabbit, as I said. It's just a photo. There will be no evidence at all of a rabbit that was killed for the photo, because it's been eaten. And now we have elephants. Much harder to buy in the supermarket. So these are sleeping elephants. Photos of sleeping elephants. Because they also don't like to, even though they are very slow. They also don't like to stand still. They're easier actually to draw when they're awake because they do stand still a little bit more. But my pet elephant died a long time ago, so I don't have access to that. And the type of ink I use, if anyone cares, the type of ink I like to splash all over my desk, I think in this case is a sepia, just a cheap, well actually the thing is, this is cheap ink, relatively speaking, but it's really a complete rip-off because it's just some artificial pigment in water, and you pay far too much for it. Unfortunately, industrialization is a bit of a con in many cases, because in the past you could make your own ink out of wood ash, or those wasp things on the oak, whatever they're called, and people knew how to make it, and you could just make huge batches of it. But no one knows how to do it now, or you can't access that material, so you got to go buy this ridiculous stuff that they make in big vats, which was some simple chemicals. Anyway, it's not real sepia. Real sepia, of course, comes from squid, does it? Maybe, I don't know, cuttlefish. So I guess they never would have had a large supply of that, but other kinds of ink. Now we have some polar bears and other bears. Again, quite difficult to get hold of. Don't stand in front of them. You'll end up like that guy who took his fiancée camping to be friends with the grizzlies, and they ended up two torsos in love on the hillside there. Two gory torsos. So the thing about sketches is that, I should move my big head, is that they really only stand alone as, let's say, successful drawings when they're, I think when they're quite spontaneous and they're not overworked at all, and you just pretty much nail it, more or less, first go. But the problem with that is, if you're doing studies, you want to correct your contours in many cases and shapes to learn what you're doing and learn what to do. So you won't necessarily make the best drawings that way, and then if you're not careful and you're just trying to make good drawings by having a perfect run on your sketch, you can defeat the purpose of what you're doing there, because you just start trying to make nice drawings instead of studying things. You have to kind of allow yourself to make bad drawings, and then just pick, if you want to present drawings as some kind of successful pieces, then you just pick the better ones, I guess. But you got to be careful you don't try to get too vain, and because it will then affect what you're doing. I mean, you're not doing studies anymore. You're trying to create these perfect little etudes, and that's my 2 cents about it. So you can see, some of these, this one's been overworked because I'm trying to trying to do it better. But it won't end up looking better, if you know what I mean. You will have to redo the sketch in Spontaneous with fresh lines. Now these are dead foxes, so most of them are hit by cars or shot. Again, in the past I would have got myself a dead fox, but very difficult to do that now. And taxidermy is, well, that's another. I've got taxidermy resources, but when you realise they're using these pre-made molds and pre-made casts, of the forms, and then you're relying on the interpretation of the taxidermist, and it's just, some of them are pretty accurate now. In the past, not so much, depending on the animal. But why is my head so big? This shadow is just ridiculous. So here's some more dead foxes. That one's really dead. Like, he had his tongue out and everything. So he was like very, very dead. The problem with the roadkill is that it's always lying on its side of its head, which is pretty inconvenient. And as I said, animals are terrible models. Even when they're dead, they don't cooperate. So now we've got some horses. And yeah, if I had a farm, or lived near a farm, I'd like to go and just draw horses, but they do stand quite still. Also, it's difficult to get skulls and other things of certain animals now. I've got some skulls, but now there's sort of a market for them because no one lives in the country anymore. So people sell skulls for absurd prices. Well, in the past, you could have a pretty good supply of them, I think. So here's some goats. And goats can be quite well put together. I think they can be quite elegant goats if you get the right goat breed. Or smudged. So yeah, probably not the best pastel colour to use, but that's what was within arm's reach. So we've got our fluoro pink, our raspberry pink shaded goats there. Anyway, I think that's about it, and not the most interesting subjects, but a little peek into my routine there for anyone who's interested.